Hey guys, this is the tournament video for the BFL on Lake Ouachita. It's going to be February 23rd of 2019. If you haven't seen it already, I've got a practice video for this tournament already out. So check that out at the end of the video. I have a link to it, or you can go back and watch it before the tournament video. Whatever you want to do. But like, subscribe to my channel. Let me know what you think about the video in the comments. I'm going to be breaking down all the fish catches through the video with my map chips. So check that out. Hope you guys enjoy the video.
Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning with a word of thanks. Thank you, Father God, for allowing us to be here. Thank you for your creation. Thank you for our lives. And most importantly, thank you for your Son who died on the cross for our sins. Father God, you say ask and you shall receive. Well, Father God, we pray and we're asking for blessings and favor today, and we'll receive that in your name. Amen. The land of the free and the
I didn't see that net flip. The jig fell out.
Damn. Oh my god. You didn't close that. Holy shit. I'd have been sick. I'd have been
That
sick.
was ugly.
I'd have been sick the rest of my day.
Number one.
There's a little bit in. You got it going on, man, too.
Alright, so this was the first area that I stopped in. Right here, ditch coming off the main channel back in this area actually came out right up through here where my mouse is. And then this ditch kind of came running back through here. As you can see, shallow areas on both sides. This was where I wanted to stop first. I ended up coming in and getting it. My primary area that I was sitting in was just right in here, and it was a little bit deeper than it shows because the water was coming up with all the rain and everything. But so right up in here is where I was casting up into. There's standing timber all over through all this stuff. I mean everything, and I'm had the boat sitting out here in the center of this ditch right here, which was anywhere, sitting right back in here. I had some waypoints marked from where I was getting some bites, for an area to start out in. But I caught that fish sitting right here, right out in the center of this, thrown up into here and just kind of dragging it really, really slowly back through that timber. And I was getting bit actually right in there as, it was dropping off into that ditch and all that standing timber. Also was getting some bites out here on this main point going out into the main channel in that standing timber. My co-angler actually ended up catching a fish out here, but it's the same story. Both of the fish actually were caught right in here, that my first two fish, and it was just the same thing, probably 20 minutes apart, sitting in the same spot locked in, making casts right up into here. And that was kind of seemed like where the fish were sitting at that day. I couldn't get bitten very many other spots, but my co-angler ended up picking up a small spot out here, and I mean it was really the same deal, just the standing timber right along that edge and sitting out way in that deep water, throwing up in the shallow stuff and dragging that jig slowly back out into it. But that's kind of sums up that first area that I went to. Ended up not getting as many big bites as I expected to get out of this area. But I milked it for all I could, and my game plan was to sit here until the sun came out, and when the sun started popping out through the clouds, that was when I headed out to the clear stuff and left it. Maybe should have sat there all day. I don't know. I think I might have ended up scratching out all 5 of mine if I would have sat there all day, but I couldn't get myself to sit there any longer, knowing that I had some other spots that might be able to produce in other areas, and I left it. And I will get on to the next couple fish and everything that I catch the rest of the day. But here we go.
I guess I made up for this morning.
Okay, so like I said in my practice video, there are going to be some areas that when I didn't get bit on the jig, I was going to throw a jerkbait some in. This was one of them. As you can see, a couple shallow areas with a ditch running right back in between them. I was coming up here, as you can see by the lines, that's kind of where my boat was sitting around, and I was throwing at this sharper drop on this side. That was where I was getting some bites and pre-fish. Couldn't get bit on the jig, so I got the jerkbait out and was throwing up on top of this flat and bringing it back over that drop right there, along with throwing it out through here. And there's a bunch of grass with some scattered standing timber and stuff all over this. But actually ended up catching that fish throwing out here, kind of along this point, and working it back right through here, and I got bit right along here where it's starting to drop off into that ditch. But that's how I picked up fish number 3.
Boy, I tell you what, you are getting lucky today. Oh man. Woo! Number 4.
So here is what we have for this fish. Channel swing coming through here, as you can see, a really defined channel, and then a shallow area right here, along with the shallow point coming out there. And also to the right of the screen, what kind of drew me into this area was there was a really big shallow flat coming out that way that channel swing ran up against. No bites out there, but when I came in here during pre-fish, I ended up picking up a fish right there, and that was kind of my intentions during the tournament. I was going to come right back in here to the same spot, make a couple of the same casts, and see if I could get bit there again, and I did. I came in, actually stopped right there, spot locked it in, and made a couple casts down this long ways down this line right here into the shallows, and then slowly just dragging it over that steep drop right there. Ended up getting bit right there, and picked up my 4th fish, and that kind of lays out the area right here for you.
How about Hayden Newberry, Jonesboro, Illinois? Almost said Jonesboro, Arkansas. Jonesboro, Illinois, with a 4-bass bag on the boater side. You know either one of these two?
I do know the one on the right.
You know the one on the right. She's just standing next to the stranger. Who's this out here with 2 cameras on you?
My girlfriend. She's doing the recording today.
Got you covered, right? Good. It's good to have the support. Got the girlfriend out here. Hayden and his girlfriend have a 4-bass bag. Going to give you a roll weight of 8 pounds and 14 ounces. Put you in 12th place. We're paying 20 spots. It's going to be close. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for fishing with us. Thanks.
All right, so like I said before, check out the practice video if you haven't already. But if you haven't seen it, these are the baits that I was using during the tournament. I was using a 3/4 ounce Strike King football jig. Had a watermelon red mini-scrub trailer on the back. I was throwing this out in the clear water, 3/4 ounce, just because I could get it down there just a little bit quicker. I was dragging it back through all the really thick timber and everything, so that was what I went with. In the dirtier water that I started out in at the start of the video, it was the black and blue football jig. I just changed trailers and changed colors for that dirtier water. But like I said in the practice video too, what I was doing, the jig bite seemed like it was starting to slow down just a little bit for me leading up to the tournament, so I threw a jerk bait just a little bit in some of the same areas and was picking up a few fish. So this is the one I was throwing. It is a Strike King KVD jerk bait. Normally dives to 10 or 11 feet. I put some heavier hooks on it, some number 2 mustads. It made it sink just a little bit more so I could get it down there at about 15 feet or so. But that was my change, and I felt like it gave me a couple, more fish in practice. Ended up picking a fish up on it in the tournament in one of the spots that I couldn't get bit on a jig on. But that was what I threw. Only ended up with 4 fish. I got bit plenty of times to have my 5 fish, but one I lost right after I set the hook. A couple other ones I missed. I probably missed 4 or 5 fish, and you can't win a tournament when you do that. I ended up placing 26th. If I would have caught my 5th fish, because most of mine were just over 2 pounds, if I would have caught like a 4-pounder, I would have been close to or in the top 10. If I would have just caught another keeper, I would have been in, I think, 15th, 16th, somewhere right around there. So I would have jumped up like 10 places with my 5th fish, but I didn't get it. I was definitely around them. I caught 4 fish. My co-angler ended up catching 3. I weighed in 8 pounds and 10 ounces, or 8 pounds and 14 ounces. I had a 4 ounce penalty because one of the fish that I hooked ended up dying. So I had a dead fish penalty for 4 ounces. Ended up with 8 pounds, 10 ounces for 26. My co-angler had 6.5 pounds or so, and I think he ended up getting a check. So, but he had 3 fish, I had 4. Any one of his fish would have put me in the top, 15 or so. But oh well. If you haven't seen it already, Yoltech Power Stick. That's what I'm doing all my recording with. This thing, you just stick it anywhere you want on the boat. It will power your GoPro, whatever you want to use. I use a GoPro for the entire tournament, and you don't have to touch it or anything like that. So that's pretty cool if you want to, record your fishing trips, your tournament videos, whatever. Pretty awesome. Check in my description for the video for a link to it, to their website. Use my link, let them know that I sent you there, and check all the stuff out. See if you want to get anything off of them. They got some pretty cool stuff on there. But next up is Lake Dardanelle, March 23rd. It's coming up pretty quick. I'll have a practice video and a tournament video out for that tournament, just like this tournament. It should be a pretty good one. It's laying on a pretty good time. I think it's going to be kind of opposite of this one. I was fishing really deep in this one, and that one is going to be, I would say, probably a pretty shallow bite, but we'll see. It's a river lake. They like to be shallow. So something kind of different on this tournament. I found out after the tournament was over with that there was a lot of guys catching them on a spinnerbait, and I actually tried a spinnerbait out for probably an hour or so in pre-fish, and in that really clear stuff around the bushes and some of the dirty water around the bushes, and I couldn't get bit. I was sitting in line to weigh in my fish, and the guy across from me was talking about how he's catching these big fish, and filling his limit out every day leading up to the tournament, but he only had a couple pounds. So, and also there was a bunch of guys catching him on a jig in my tournament. So it's one of those things, I guess you pick one or the other, but there was a lot of guys catching him on a jig. There was a lot of guys catching him on a spinnerbait. Guy that won the tournament said that he was throwing a spinnerbait in like a couple feet of water. So maybe it could have been something that I could have, sampled a little bit more, but I didn't have a whole lot of time, so you can't just go around the lake running all kinds of water and know where to go with that spinnerbait. But I found the bite on a jig. That's what I went with. Ended up not filling out my 5, so I could have stayed in the area that I was catching those first ones and possibly filled out my limit. I felt like that was where I was getting bit a lot more, but it was pretty slow. I waited and held out there till like 10:30, almost 11 o'clock, I think, and the sun started coming out, and I said that when the sun was going to start coming out that I was going to move to that clear water and try those areas, because that's how the type of weather I was getting bit in out there. So I moved, almost filled out my limit out there. I caught my second 2 fish out in that deeper stuff and in the clear water, but could not get the third one. That's how it worked out for me. Like, subscribe, let me know what you think about the video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for Dardanelle.